Oh, the art. The art. Oh, okay. Look, if there's a test.
All right, do it. Okay.
There.
Thank you, sir. I hooked this to the TV and it connected with TV speakers, and that was trading feedback.
Tasty.
I think we're okay now. Let's see. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, let's get to the right camera.
We have two cameras.
Well, yeah, normally, but in a minute. Let's see here. But it's, of course, not cooperating.
Yeah, like Farmer Giles creates drawings. I think his drawings are plenty fine for a professor.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to us finishing up the Giles of Ham, and I must say I haven't had anybody else to read it, so it's interesting to go over it. I don't know, a different setting, I guess.
Yeah.
Scholarly discussion.
It's always great when you have people reading almost any work of literature, you know, together. It's very good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Finally fixed the technical glitches there. Sorry about that. A little rough start. Maya Govinen and Happy New Year. I'm not sure how to say Happy New Year in English. That would be something I should go. And welcome to the monthly meeting and broadcast of the Tolkien Society, the official seal of the UK Tolkien Society. I'm the local society founder, Hawke Robinson, and joining us today, who actually you're in the wings, can you slide a little more into the picture? It's our Secretary Brian Huseland. There you go. And
Cooper, also an official member.
And Corey Newkirk, also, I guess, an official member.
well, so we're actually paying members of the UK Tolkien Society.
Oh.
Have you done that yet?
Oh, no.
Okay, it's optional, you're not required. We've actually kind of gifted it.
Hawke threatened.
Joking, yeah. Well, we've been gifting them to each other over when we've stuck to it for a few years sometimes, so there's always, you never know.
It's like we're kind of a semi-independent group, but we're underneath the Tolkien Society.
So we'd be a chapter of the
A federation.
Yes. So you are, for all intents and purposes,
alliance.
Yes.
Last alliance.
You're the most.
So I was here for a year and a half.
Transmogrified.
So
You
you're
stuck him in a
still trying to find out if Richard's going to be able to make it or not?
Yeah, I'll try after I read the notes here.
I've got to fix that email list. So Mailman is working, but because it doesn't handle different domain names, it's only really designed for one domain on one server, or everything going to one. And you know, I have 30 different sites.
VMs are your friend.
There's trade-offs. There's trade-offs, especially for remote administration.
I know.
But everything else does virtual hosting no problem. Apache and Clone and everything else. And before I used QMail and Easy MLM, and that worked great, but it hasn't kept up with finding spam. And so I had to go to Postfix and only work with that. There's no matter major domain. So anyway, techie talk, sorry. For those who may be new to this, please check out our notes. We have a whole meeting notes section dedicated on the website, tolkienscholars.org. We're no longer active on Facebook. We've gotten sick and tired of their shenanigans, and it's such a huge waste of time.
You're here.
So the last posting's on there. The account's still there. The last postings say, go to our website or Twitter or Google+. Don't bother with Facebook. Just add it. And all the links are there. So that's there to tell people to go here. Tolkienscholars.org. And I won't be posting any more updates on Facebook. I will on Twitter, which is twitter.com/Tolkien Scholars, or Google+, which is plus Tolkien Scholars. And of course, on our website is where everything gets posted first. And we are in a chat room, especially during the broadcast, at irc.merp.com, and then both the rooms, Merp Chat and Broadcast, during broadcast. The rest of the time, I hang out in the Merp chat room. I don't know if our fellow Finns are going to join us. I hope they do, because I actually had some Finnish discussion I want to slip in a little bit.
And you wanted to finish?
Yes, I wanted to finish. Then begin. I got some stuff from my dad about the Finnish side of my family, which is Harju. And so I have some photos of my great-grandparents.
Would you be willing to share some of that?
Yes, that was kind of the point. So because of the Kalevala we've been talking about, and the influence of Finnish on Tolkien's creation of Quenya and things like that. Still, is it Quenya or Kenya? I'm still
pulling for Quenya.
I think so, because always Kenya sounds like part of Africa, but I'm not sure.
The English QU it's always that way, but for British, but for a made-up language, we don't know.
Exactly. And I sent an invite to Jeremiah, but it doesn't look like he's joining, unfortunately.
Okay. Did he respond back at all, or?
Not that I've seen.
Also, Brandon was online last month.
Brandon, remind me. What's his?
I don't know what his surname was because he only came on last month. So
I forgot.
You might want to mention because he's probably not on the email list.
Brandon's not Brandon Sanders, and Brandon Young. We've got like 50 Brandons in our following.
Really? I don't know. It was
I have to go back to the video.
Brandon with an O-N. Yeah.
Yeah, they're old.
A dark-haired Brandon. I don't know.
Well, I've got one. Okay, I'll try Brandon Young from the circle. See if he joins us. Okay. So I wonder who's like, what are you doing about me? And then of course there's the we get quarterly magazines from the UK Tolkien Society as part of membership, and have received Mallorn. This is the winter 2015, this is the latest one. Journal of the Tolkien Society. And Amon Hen, number 256. This is issue 56, and this is issue 256. Bulletin of the Tolkien Society. And each issue has different artwork each time. Oh, the back of the Mallorn was also. Yep.
Colin and photo.
We will be hopefully finishing our reading of Farmer Giles of Ham this month, if not next month. We also usually do a reading from the letters of J.R.R. Tolkien. We'll see if we have time for that or not. Plus, this time the Tolkien Society sent out a questionnaire for the Amon Hen, so this is for the bulletin. And we would love for our online viewers to join in answering your opinions in this questionnaire as well. Even if it's after the broadcast, you can just post comments on YouTube video. This automatically uploads to YouTube right after the broadcast is finished, or on our TolkienScholars.org website. And provide your thoughts. I'm sure Tolkien Society would appreciate the feedback from as many people as possible. So let's go ahead and do the meeting minutes. Very good. Brian will give us the meeting notes from last month, and then maybe we should go to the questionnaire before we do the reading.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Great. Thanks, Hawke. So, our meeting notes from December 12th, 2015 for the Tolkien Society. We had attending Hawke, Chris, myself, Brian, Corey, and then Richard and Brandon online. And then, so Hawke opened the meeting, and I read the November meeting notes, and Hawke, maybe rant is too firm of a word, but Hawke described the downfall of our troubles with Facebook and the causes for which we are no longer using that.
Thousands of followers.
Yes. And then this was followed by discussion about a number of free-ranging topics. Stephen Colbert Show recently mentioned case in Turkey about needing an expert witness to determine whether this man who was comparing the prime minister to, who was it again?
Gall.
To Gall.
No, Smeagol.
Smeagol, right. So this is where he was getting into trouble politically, and of course that was an interesting kind of comment.
Jailable offense.
Yes, a jailable offense. Thankfully, we don't have that kind of tyranny here in the United States. Yeah. Then also, I was excited about this as well. Hawke kind of gave us an update on the One Ring role-playing system, which is of course based on Middle Earth and Tolkien's legendarium there. And so the new module was called Ruins of the North, which had just come out finally in print. And this was a module of based on, it would be on Rangers and the whole area north of the road east, correct?
Yeah.
So there you've got, they're going to be unpacking probably Rivendell will be.
It's Eastern Eriador is how the map is
There
titled.
you go. And that actually would extend all the way down to the south, which is interesting because.
Yeah, this goes all the way down to Dunland.
Yeah, Tharbad and the ruins there, along some of the rivers. That's interesting area to be able to explore.
And Iron Crown Enterprises did a number of modules in those areas as well. They did the Dunlendings, they did town of Tharbad, although it was more like Thieves' World than anything, or Langmar. Yeah, Redhorn Pass, all sorts of great stuff.
And even going up north, I would assume the Edmures or.
Yeah, Edmures, Angmar, Mount Gundabad, Grey Waste, and then they've got one for Carn Doom.
Oh yes.
Yeah, Carn Doom. So we did Tolkien last year. The theme was giants, and we did it here in the Lone Lands, Edmures, and Coldfells. The adventure covered all, and the Trollshaws.
Right.
All of that area was covered. They started down here at the East Road at the last inn and went north, and the adventure ranged through that whole area during the 3 days of adventuring.
Well, we're
Three real life days.
We've been reading through the Fellowship of the Ring, and it's just very interesting before they get to Rivendell. I would say that map maybe doesn't show has the number of hills and
right. Yeah, this is a lot less detailed than they always do a more artistic interpretation in One Ring, whereas Iron Crown Enterprises did a very detailed, which was true of their system too. It was a very detailed system.
Okay, thanks, Hawke. And then also we had a nice description of 3 generations of Middle Earth role-playing games. Iron Crown Enterprises was the first with MERP, and then Decipher, and then third and kind of recent version or company that's been running with it that has the rights is Cubicle 7, which puts out Tor, or the One Ring. After that, we had our Vinyar Tengwar update. Hawke, I don't have down the details there, but we continued on with Vinyar Tengwar.
Right. Well, we were finally making it to the next page.
Oh, that's right. It was a report from MythCon 19.
Right.
The first elf meeting in the 1980s, and the Berkeley Mythopoeic Society. It mentioned writers Ursula Le Guin and Brian Atterbury. Computers were first mentioned.
Right. Because it was 1988.
Yes, and Hawke remembers creating a Tolkish database.
Back in 82, 81, something like that.
So obviously, in the very beginning, Tolkien fans were using computers to come up with things. Hobbit text-only game.
Shouldn't be that way. Shouldn't be that way. You're a Luddite.
Ah, well, yes.
Or Tolkien was.
Tolkien was, yes. But who knows? I mean, he did have a typewriter, and that is technology. Vineyard numbers, we did 1 through 12.
Technology.
This is true. Vineyard numbers 1 through 12. One was mini or mine or min. 2 was at or atta or ad, and 3 was nelde or neled. So just kind of the main 3. Corey commented on the cover of Farmer Giles and photos of Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started reading Farmer Giles of Ham, second session. At Person's discovery that the sword was Cauda Mordax. And so we read on from there, and just a few comments. Brandon said that Farmer Giles' titles show that Tolkien was aesthetic, and Turin Turambar gave himself names. And we talked about Kullervo, how there's this kind of character with self-pity. See old notes comparing Kullervo and Turin. We didn't have time to link that, but that was a few years ago when we did that kind of comparison between Kullervo, the Finnish tragic hero or anti-hero.
Right. The Finnish Edda, the sing-song moral stories.
And then you have Tolkien's character.
Much more interesting.
Turin.
And that is in our YouTube channel. Those videos are still there from years ago.
Yeah.
YouTube.com/Tolkien Scholars.
And then Corey mentioned other authors: C.S. Lewis, Madeline L'Engle, Jeremiah talked about Treebeard's comments to hobbits telling him their names. So then we continued reading Farmer Giles of Ham, ended with "No news is bad news," as I think Farmer Giles had just met, or was just meeting the dragon. Memorable character. Corey commented on the legend of Valerius being forgotten in court. I can't remember what that was about, but Tolkien's sensitive to that. Fairy tales, essential part of culture. And then Corey also mentioned John Bly's book on men. We had just kind of a nice discussion about all that. And then updates available online, no longer on Facebook, which we covered before. And then we plan the next meeting before January 9, 2016, which is today.
Thank you very much, Brian.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I just had a couple of quick thoughts I wanted to act on before one thought pushed out another, as they say. As was that Barleyman Butterbird?
Yes.
Not take notice of the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
You can hear his voice, but he's like God. But
Disembodied it.
Here we go. Okay, so
Disembodied, you still have a head. You're it's floating there in space.
As opposed to unembodied, right?
I'm wondering if we shouldn't at some point start considering also including some of Michael Martinez's essays.
Absolutely.
Because he brings up some great topics, and they're short and concise.
Well, that'd be helpful.
Great prompts.
Mm-hmm.
We have too much this month, but
yeah.
Because he has two physical books and 2 ebooks. But when I did Tolkien Moot 3, he authorized me to print 10 physical copies, and they were kind of expensive, $20-30 to print. And so his is autographed and everything. Ripcon 2, it's autographed by him. So there's only 10 legitimate copies of this in print, and he autographed all of them. And then the Visualizing Middle-earth, Understanding Middle-earth, and then he released another one a year ago, or last year, as an ebook only, and I forget the title right now. So he tends to do many essays. Thank you.
I apologize. Who's the author?
Michael Martinez.
Okay.
So he's done a lot of he's done a lot of essays, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of essays on Tolkien since the 90s. And he was briefly consulted by Peter Jackson and others, and many others. So he's a Tolkien scholar. His main profession is actually SEO, search engine optimization theory, and he's a search engine optimization consultant.
Another technocrat who likes.
Yes. That seems to be a common theme in that area. So it's to counteract.
There you go.
Being techie all the time.
Left brain, right brain.
So Michael Martinez released a small Kindle book called Mindfaring Through Middle-earth. Also on TolkienSociety.org, on their blog, he wrote a blog post about the Hobbit movies and basically taking on and disagreeing with the idea that the flaw was based on well, The Hobbit was too short to make 3 movies.
Yeah, no, that's
so
not
he
true.
was he kind of makes a really interesting argument for the issues that there aren't having to do with the fact that The Hobbit was smaller,
Right.
because you could take
Easily.
any chapter out of The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings and make it into lots more.
Yeah.
Really has to do
You
with
could do a
the
13-part series on The Hobbit.
the way that you adapt things.
That they added crap that had nothing to do with it. And yeah, Michael and I are really minds on that.
True that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we knew Peter Jackson would do that. He's been going further and further off the rails with each movie.
Yes.
Sadly.
Okay, so
but I'm sure it's easy to port to a video game now.
oh darn, all that money. So any comments before we go into that?
He had,
Nothing important. Never mind. Go ahead. Well, it was an aside. Well, see, I have an acquaintance. His name is Jeff Overstreet. He had very big doubts about Peterson making. Yeah, sorry, I apologize. Peter Jackson having his hands on the I'm sorry.
The Lord of the Rings.
The Hobbit. No, The Hobbit.
Okay.
He said that the size of the story and everything, that what Jackson would do to it would be try to make it more, I don't know what the word is, epic, or try to make it more like he did, where he had like that, I think that fight, what is it, right when they're burning the trees or whatever, and the tree falls down and the dwarves end up fighting a bunch of orcs or something, when that never happened in the books at all. And so it ended up becoming a really frenetic paced, almost
high action movie.
Right, which it was never.
Hey, Brandon joined us. Yay.
Well, Brandon was really nice.
Yeah. Welcome. Hail Maya Govanen, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys. Thank you.
We just finished our notes, and we were talking briefly about Michael Martinez and his many essays. We might start incorporating them into future broadcasts. And we were talking a little bit about Michael Martinez's essay on the UK Tolkien Society's website regarding the Peter Jackson Hobbit movies.
Fantastic.
For the record, Brandon, what country or state are you joining us from?
I am from Massachusetts in New England.
Awesome.
Yep.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Do we want to squeeze in a Vinyar Tengwar?
Well, I think that'd be a great one to do.
Okay.
We also, like you said, want to make sure that we do that survey before we forget.
Right. So the Vinyar Tengwar and survey?
Yep, and then
we'll
Farmer Giles.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is from, it looks like it's the same issue. So this is...
So you just read last time about the kind of the report back from the first Hobbit meeting, and the Mythopoeic Society, 1988, right. I think it was.
Right, and so this is from that same issue. This is basically that whole front page that we've been doing for about a year with each of the words. We're still in issue 1 of the Vinyar Tengwar, September 1988.
Right.
We're almost finished, and then we can begin issue 2 next month maybe. So we did the Elvish poetry.
Did you want to go through all the material in the book piece by piece, or were you looking more for
I'm looking at highlights.
the Elvish? Yeah.
No, I've been looking at highlights of topics
kind of like
as well as Elvish.
the history of
Vinyar Tengwar
right,
issues,
right.
Yeah. So the next topic after the ring, because they got things like rings of members and notes of contributions, and we just...
It's interesting, too, to learn about the past.
And I think you can still get these, though. I think you can still buy these after the fact.
Really? Yeah, actually, on their website, I think they do have back issues.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's how I got these. And there's a lot. There's like, because they've been going since '88.
And just for the note, last meeting in December, we actually have a link in the notes there for Vinyar Tengwar's current website.
And all the meeting notes are under TolkienScholars.org.
Top page.
And then right there's a link that says EA Tolkien Society meeting notes, and you can see all the meeting notes from our previous months that we posted. All right, so the next topic of note, after their various administrative stuff, is the Letters of J.R.R. Tolkien, Volume 2. Like we've been reading from Volume 1, right, for years and years and years. This is about Letters of J.R. Tolkien, Volume 2, colon, a hoax. Well, I'd say since this was in 1988, I think that might be confirmed because I haven't heard of a second Letters of Tolkien.
I heard something, but I wasn't sure about it.
It said in Winter 87, I'm going to just paraphrase, Winter 87, issue of Minas Tirith Evening Star, Volume 16, number 4, Paulus Ritz stated on page 3 that in preparation is Letters Volume 2. This was again reported in the August 88 issue of Beyond Bree. Had a lot of people excited. And Christopher Skull and another person in the English Tolkien Society, having close ties with Onion Hyman, told them they had no plans in the near future to publish another letter. It's an anthology. And this guy comments he was surprised, doesn't wish to accuse anybody, but it's a false rumor, and at least according to the executives of Unwin, and that something is amiss. So that was just a little interesting thing I didn't realize had popped up. And that finishes the first issue of the Vinyar Tengwar, September 88. The next one will be issue 2, November 1988. And there's a bunch of drawings on the front with dwarvish, with the very angular runes, the Angerthas. Are those Angerthas?
Yeah.
Angerthas.
Yeah.
So we'll have to, for the next issue, cover that. And but that was it for there wasn't any more Elvish words and such for that issue. So we'll continue that next month. And again, because we're trying to make room for Farmer Giles. So the next thing is the Tolkien Society, and this month's release. We had shown Brandon that we got our latest Mallorn and Amon Hen issues.
Oh, beautiful, yeah.
And so we have those, but they also included a questionnaire from the Tolkien Society, and they would love feedback from as many people as possible. So I thought I'd share this question on the air, and then those who view this after the fact, just comment in the YouTube video, and we can relay that to the Tolkien Society. So the question is, Section 1, General Preferences. Question 1. Which type of membership do you have? Okay, well, I have a full membership. You have a full membership. You have a full membership. You do not have a membership right now. Brandon, do you have any membership to UK Tolkien Society?
I get the E version.
Oh, you just have so you just have the online version.
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
Not yet.
Yeah, not required, but it helps support events and things like that.
Absolutely.
Our chapter doesn't charge or have any kind of membership requirements. But since the UK has it, I think that'd just be redundant. Some SMEALs do. Some SMEALs charge to put on their events and such. But to date, so far, I've been able to do everything out of pocket and donations and all that.
And Mallorn's a really nice publication.
Yeah. Number 2, do you feel that Amon Hen represents good value for money? So that's the smaller one. And it's just included automatically membership, so I don't know what it costs to get it separately. It might say, oh, it says, you will receive a survey with this issue. Oh no, I hear you groan. Not another survey, I can't be bothered. Well, please consider that the whole future of Amon Hen and my future as editor will depend on your response. So I hope you will be willing to spend a little time on it after all. As I hope last time, lots of people enjoyed Oxenmoot, and I got, this is from the editorial, not just 1, but 3 write-ups that you can read later in this issue. Having mentioned surveys, it seems people have given Pat and Trevor so much to think about that they haven't finalized the timing or venue details of the AGM.
Annual General Meeting.
Okay, thank you. But there is a preliminary notice about that, as well as a call for papers for the seminar, which a number of years ago, I think it was 2011, they did a call for papers and they accepted one of mine and read it, which was on Tolkien and his love of trees.
They do a couple of papers every year.
Every summer they read them, yeah. Let's see. He just has some other administrative stuff. Seminars, Oxenmoot. So this is mostly just discussions of mostly all the different events going on with the Tolkien Society. So I think the Mallorn covers more in-depth articles.
By the way, I love the cover.
Yeah.
And then you can see on the...
You want to hold that back up and describe it? Or?
On the website, you can actually see the full picture.
On the TolkienSociety.org.
And this is taken from...
TolkienScholars.org.
Yes, on TolkienSociety.org. Cover art, The Prancing Pony by Tomás Hijo full picture at www.tomashijo.com.
There we go.
TOMASHIJO.com. And it's kind of a Where's Waldo kind of look to it. But
Point to Bilbo.
there you go. See if I can get it better. But I like, it's a woodcut kind of look to it. And it just seems, again, kind of going back to the whole treatment of how do you depict hobbits and dwarves and really the Shire in general, or Bree. And I think perhaps over epicifying it, or however you want to say that, making things perhaps less homey than they should be is unfortunate, because I think this is kind of a great example of where the playfulness comes in. When we're talking about the Hobbit movies,
Right, exactly.
you've got to balance that carefully, and it's fun to see some of that kind of, I don't know, folk art kind of feel to it. So, other hands and minds?
There's a short poem in here to Professor Tolkien by Steph Porter-Smith. Want me to read it quickly?
Sure.
All right. In a hole in the ground, Mr. Hardy began. Story time at the end of a school day. Me, 7 years and no taller than a hobbit. Mr. Hardy was Baggins-like, and his voice began to dig treasure from the book in his hand, began to weave pictures from golden thread, opened a road to me that went ever on and on. All my life there has been a haven from where I can sail, and ride the currents of your consciousness, looking for Avalon and finding the straight road to the cottage of lost play. You made a universe like a kind of god, a Luvatar on a cloud of pipe smoke, hair as silver as mithril, eyes twinkling, with ordinary, everyday sort of magic. You were a wizard of extraordinary powers. I open your books yet again, and I say, well, I'm back.
Nice.
That was nice. And then there's a whole section here called the Matham. It's a subsection called the Newsletter of the Smeals. And this is where other Smeals post their little news and events and such. They have Florence, Italy. Looks like a whole bunch from Florence, Italy.
So
North Farthing.
the intent of Amon Hen and Mallorn too is different. I like, because Amon Hen is supposed to be kind of more of a just a newsletter that can share what's going on between, kind of a more informal. And then Mallorn can be more of a scholarly, articles.
It's actual articles and essays more. There's the occasional little one in Amon Hen, but it's much more just sharing news. So to his question, do you feel that Amon Hen represents good value for the money? For me, yes. I'm part of the membership and everything. That's great. What do you guys think? Oh, here's the rates. Membership rates, UK, £30. That's quite a bit. That would be about $60 here.
About 45.
45, okay. Yeah, because it's dollars.
Maybe 50. Yeah.
Is that just for 1 year or a couple of years?
I think that's for the whole print.
Well, that's the whole that's the whole membership.
Yeah.
So that's just included.
I don't know that they
I
sell
don't think they sell it separately. I can't find it.
That's part of the subscription to the.
So yeah, and I'm happy with what for membership.
Yeah,
so I think it's great. I'd like to have it included. I think it's good for the societies to have a way to communicate with each other that way. The Smeals
makes you feel connected to Tolkien
and other
fans,
groups,
around the world.
Yeah.
Again, fans not just based by the movies, but the books, the work of Tolkien himself.
Right.
So it's a little bit different of a fan base. There's some overlap.
I love the little poem in there. I was like, yeah, that rung true. It has the ring of truth. Right. I could connect with what a fellow.
And can I say, I think that in some ways, that idea of being able to collaborate, share, to me, it's more along the spirit of Tolkien's whole attitude about sub-creation.
And the Inklings and all of that.
Rather than just being fans in the sense of, and again, not being, not being patronizing about young people at all. So I think fandom can become a thing in itself. Whereas what I like, I guess, I would say that maybe perhaps my personal view is that the best kind of fan one can be is where you admire something so much that you desire to be creative yourself. And I think that's far better than just passively, raving about, something you watched.
Right. What do you think, Chris?
Creating yourself. Well, doesn't God create it? No. So yeah, the value is definitely there. The I like the ability to if those two documents were in one, it would lessen the scholarliness of Mallorn, and it would not do too well for the other Amon Hen.
Yeah, it is nice to have two different kinds.
Yes.
And what about, what do you think? Do you have any opinion on that?
No, I haven't read either one of them, so.
Pass that around.
Yeah.
And how about yourself, Brandon?
Yeah, I agree. I think with you guys that you know, you obviously Tolkien, like you said, his sub-creative efforts make you want to be a sub-creator yourself, and you know, if you're just a fan and in a fandom, and you know, just because you look nice in the dress that or whatever, or you love, you know, there is something to that, and I'm not discrediting that. A lot of people come to Tolkien through the movies. I was a James Joyce fan, and I still am, and Bertrand Russell Society member long before I was a Tolkien fan. I came to Tolkien when I was like 30, you know, or 28, I should say, maybe 27. So, yeah, so after I had studied philosophy and everything, and it just blew my mind away and just changed my whole life, and it's informed everything I do, from scholarly work to you know, just art and things like that, and just things I enjoy. I think not everybody's an artist, so we shouldn't have like an or scholars. So you know, there are going to be people that are just going to be fans and love it, and just don't have the talent to or whatever. They have other talents. You know, they're really good webmasters that are Tolkien, you know, fans. They might not publish a paper, but they're NASA scientists and engineers. You know, there's a whole different audience now, and I do like the scholarly side. You know, I'm a big fan of Michael Drout and Tom Shippey and people like that, and obviously Ron Flieger and so yeah, I agree with both. You know, kind of. Yep.
Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon.
Is this one more artistic?
So yeah, so the Amon Hen is more of an administrative, letting the bulletins kind of communicate with each other, sharing about upcoming events, and then a little bit of, you know, original contributions of words. Mallorn is mostly like essays and scholarly discussions. It's not really about as much about events and communicating between the Smeals.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So this is more of okay. Yeah. I mean, I would like to sit and read through the Mallorn, especially if they've got these essays. I would love to see some essays done on Tolkien. It's amazing.
They have hundreds of them, and Michael Martinez has 300 or 400 in his. I mean, visualizing Middle-earth, understanding Middle-earth, Parmandorian, and
if you
his latest one.
if you even subscribe to the e-version,
you get access to archives.
And it's less expensive, Corey. I can't remember the difference, but
it's on there. It's on the back of the Amon Hen.
It is significantly cheaper to be an online member.
Or maybe that's maybe.
But I think you make a good point, Brandon. And so it's not one size fits all. There's going to be lots of different ways in which people express their. And I think that's very healthy. I know even like for some people, it might just be reading them. You know, if they have a family, for example, a parent might enjoy just reading. You know, reading the books to their kids that, you know, like obviously this person, 7 years old, and they heard The Hobbit, and you know, just being read to them in a creative way.
Right.
Or in some ways it's interesting because it's like, you know, we can't all be producers, but the way in which we are consumers, we can be thoughtful. I like, you know, your kind of the philosophy background there. In some ways, that's no surprise that, you know, that would be perhaps, you know, thered be people who would be, you know, interested as well from that background.
Yeah, definitely. And just a little side note here. I have a friend that I met through Tolkien when we did the Silmarillion seminar, and he was 16 at the time. He's blind, and he and no one knew it because he was so smart, and no one knew his age too. But now he's gone. Tolkien has inspired him to write his own legendarium, basically. and he's a poet. He's published 4 books on poetry, and like now he has like 3 books and a play in writing, all fiction, all based on Tolkien and informed by basically J.R. Tolkien. I mean, it's taken him to many directions, and he's blind, so he can't even see the movies, but he will go, to the theater just to hear them and soak up the sound, and he sees the movies. It's really interesting. So it's not everybody can, or have the ability to even just see some of the great artwork, but they can tap into different beauty that is beyond hope that's in Tolkien, I think. So, and my friend John Evans, check him out. He's really good at that. So, and he's a young guy. He's 21 now. So,
if you have a link to post in the chat, you can share that on the website.
I definitely will. Yep.
Or you can email me later if you want.
Yeah, I will. I'll do that. Yep.
Thanks. Tolkien Scholars at gmail.com.
All right.
And talking about derivative works, because of course I have. So there was originally other Hands magazine by Professor Chris Seaman, and then that ceased operations. It went from 91 or 3 to 2001, and then I picked up with Other Minds magazine in 2005 or so, and that's been going since. And Thomas Lewinsky in Germany's been mostly running that at this point. I still host it, and I got it going again. And that's, of course, Tolkien scholarship for role-playing gamers.
Right.
But it's more than just role-playing gamers. There's lots of scholarly stuff that if you're a non-role-playing gamer, you'll find value. So that whole triggering of creative interests and everything, like we were talking a little bit earlier about the One Ring role-playing game, that is never-ending derivative works, if you will.
True.
And, of course, Tolkien and other Hands and Other Minds are from the quote from Tolkien, that he was going to create this huge legendarium for England, but his crest has long since fallen, but he would love to see other Hands and Other Minds build on the works with music and art and etc. Far beyond and live on through that. But then of course, you also run into intellectual property laws and things like that too, so there's limits and constraints you have to work within. But the role-playing gaming world really allows, as you've been able to experience with Tolkien movies here, or when we did the regular One Ring sessions we've done, you create your whole other version.
It's a sandbox.
Exactly. So it's a wonderful thing. So vote. Yeah, I think for question number 2, we definitely get our value for the money. So number 3, do you think that? And by the way, I posted in the OneRing.net. Currently discussing latest Amon Hen and their included questionnaire on the future fate of the whole society. Well, actually, I misspelled it. Amenhen. It's Amon. So the guy responded, "The Amon Hen. If you pray hard enough, does it lay golden eggs?" That was Aon Way. You call it. So I thought that was funny.
That is funny.
Fix the spelling on that. So number 3, do you think that Amon Hen should match the visual style of our new website for a sense of unity and uniformity? That was what I wanted to get. Right. So this is the Tolkien Society website they're talking about. Let's see if I can switch cameras without breaking everything.
Buckle your seatbelts.
Can you hear me now? Brandon, can you hear us?
Can hear you guys, yep.
Okay, sorry, cut out. I was trying to show the screen, but Google Plus broke doing that. That's
Yeah, but it worked.
Oh, you
Yeah,
okay.
that was great. I got to see it. Thank you.
Okay, good. So that's the current new Tolkien Society website, and I can do it from a distance here. So they're asking if they should make Amon Hen fit the look and feel of that a little bit more, and I don't see a problem with that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it would be a little too commercial. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how that. I mean, if they want it to look like this kind of layout, I don't have a problem with that. It's cleaner. It's more professional. I don't know that it matters one way or the other.
So if I read into the question is, well, do we just do away with Amon Hen and
Yeah, I know, that's
go
what I'm
to the
checking.
website?
And no, we don't.
And that.
Is that to save money? I wonder if
It would be, because publishing is expensive.
Yeah, it is
so much cheaper. This is what's happening across the board.
Exactly, right.
But in terms of
the printing,
creating an issue,
right?
Or not just a post, but a set of posts, and then emailing people out to remind them to go look at it instead of just leaving it up there on the website. The problem with leaving it,
it'd be buried.
too much, and you would lose interest because you would not.
It's still true. You got a physical object, and you.
Yeah, no, I prefer that they send me these physical copies because it stands out now because I have so much email and I have so much digital FaceTime. And this is when I try to unplug them. I mean, we're not right now for the broadcast, obviously, but at the same time, we are humanizing.
Plus, they send real Christmas cards to you every year.
Yes.
Let's put that up.
So, Brandon, you were talking about
a pleasant surprise.
Right. So, Brandon, you were talking about your friend who's blind. So, I work a lot with a lot of people with a lot of disabilities, the deaf community, autism spectrum, at-risk youth, cerebral palsy, etc. And what I'm doing is from a recreation therapy perspective, I provide role-playing games, tabletop, live-action, and computer-based.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sometimes just adapted so they can just play. But there's a lot of inherent benefits from participation in role-playing games, for socialization and a lot of other benefits.
Wow, yeah.
And I write program plans to achieve specific goals for specific populations. So, for example, with one autism spectrum group in Tacoma, they need to learn to use the public transit system.
Right.
So I created a whole Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. campaign type thing where for them to stop a virus being propagated through the city to turn everybody in Tacoma into zombies.
Awesome. No, that's cool because...
What's that?
I was a special education teacher, and yeah, my brother has autism, and I've been, I mean, I've can go into depth about that, I used to, yeah. So, but yeah, that's an interesting pedagogical model,
Right,
I was more in.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. They start out learning in a tabletop setting with the actual maps and schedules of the city buses in the city while they're doing this adventure. And because it's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they get to just basically kind of be normal humans. They're not superheroes.
Right.
For the reason that towards the end, after they become both comfortable and competent with using the schedules and such in a tabletop setting, the second to last session, they then find the nearest bus route from their house, take that to the main central area where they all meet, and then finish the adventure as a LARP, a live action role playing. They don't need to dress up in anything. They can just go as it is. And then they finish that. You can either have post-its on signposts, or you have other players at PCs, whatever, that they use the actual bus for the final session to finish the plot and stop the bad guys. Or I've wired in a way for it's okay to fail, because I think it's always okay to fail. You usually learn more from your failures than just successes. Tacoma does an annual zombie walk. So if you time it right for the last session, if they succeed, great, they succeed, they get a reward, they stop the bad guy. If they fail, just turn left instead of right, have them come to the street during the timing of the zombie walk, and you see an entire city have turned to zombies.
That's so cool.
So anyway, just talking about that derivative expression and then also working with special needs. So if you're interested in more info, rpgresearch.com. And then I also posted on youtube.com/rpgresearch a summary of the past year. I've been speaking at a lot of locations. And then I'm also trying to build a wheelchair-friendly RPG trailer, because right now I deliver these services free in my local area, but there are places like Tacoma and others that want me to come out weekly, and it's really hard to get facilities lined up that way. And having this portable trailer, which has all my stuff in it, would make it, and I'd still be doing it for free, but it makes it much more affordable for me to take it to a lot more people. And so I've got a little funding for that. So
fantastic, man.
Yeah, rpgresearch.com, you can get all that, and you can follow me on there. So anyway,
we'll need to wrap this up.
Sorry, yeah. So do we think we don't want it to become digital? We'd like it to stay as a physical copy. The layout is either or is fine, right? We're fine with it as is, or it'd be nice if they went with that. That's okay anyway. I don't think it's necessary for them to have an added expense to get a professional layout design.
Or color.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, color. They don't need to increase their expense. We're fine with the black and white. We're happy with that. Number 4, do you think that potential new members would find Amon Hen appealing? Well, what do you think? You're a new member.
Well, to be honest, I've been thrown into this scholarship thing. I feel like I'm in the deep end sometimes a little bit because you guys.
But we've all been there. We all started that way.
But Amon Hen, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would assume that I would want to know more about other places, like you were talking about Italy or whatever. That would be kind of cool
and
to be able to see.
Coming events.
Right, that kind of thing.
What do you think of it being physical versus digital?
Yeah, I'm with you guys about the physical part. I think that there's just way too much. I've got a lot of digital books on my phone, but I have to say that I appreciate having a physical book. You know, sometimes it just seems like a friend of mine said something about if you're going to peruse through his library and borrow a book, that's one thing, but it's hard to do that when you have everything so digital.
Yeah, then they lock it down these days too.
Yeah, so I would prefer it to be, I mean, it may be more accessible by the computer, but I would rather have a hard copy.
What do you think, Brandon? Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, sorry, just unmuting, and this is going to be my last comment because I have to go look at a car. But
oh, sorry. Okay.
I'm sorry, but we'll meet up soon again. And interesting, always great to talk to you guys. I think amen to the Amon Hen, and bring it on. And I think the Tolkien Society looks great right now. I mean, I love the scrolling thing with it's just got like scholarly works and art and all kinds of stuff. So it's beautiful as is. I don't see whatever it can be changed or not. But yeah, the more Amon Hen, the better. I think, right?
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Well, we're sorry to see you go, but of course you can catch the rest of us on the YouTube channel when you.
Absolutely, and we'll be in touch. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for popping in, and be well. Namaste.
Namaste.
So we're still broadcasting. We're just he's got to go.
By the way, Richard said that he's gonna still try to make it for the last hour.
Okay, and I'll try to skip through these faster. Sorry, because there's a deadline of January 17th on this. So.
Yeah, I'll have to send mine out.
Do you think Amon Hen looks like a 21st century publication? No, but that's okay. That's part of the appeal.
It's kind of got the feel. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Do you think Amon Hen should have a consistent design? No, I'm okay. I think it's nice that different people contribute. Again, it adds to that community feel. Yes. I think things get too polished and too professional and lose some of the humanity in it. So, no.
Amon Hen is the Shire. Mallorn is Rivendell.
There we go.
That's all you have to put on your survey.
Do you think it's time for Amon Hen to have a visual refresh or redesign? Nah, not really. So clearly they're getting pressure from some people about it. Yeah. Would you prefer articles to be laid out in columns, as in Mallorn? Then they probably put a larger. What?
Yeah, I could see both ways.
With the smaller format, which is cheaper, that would be. I don't know that would be.
It depends on the text size.
Yeah.
The size of this text is small enough that it theoretically, according to my schooling, should be 2 columns.
Okay.
But
But
I think that'd be
anything over 60 characters, your eye starts to not know what to do.
Huh. Okay.
But that's my expertise.
All right.
Well, you would have gotten the survey as well, although you're an
Yes.
online one. So
Well, I got an online one.
So you should send in your.
So
Two columns,
this one
yeah.
actually does have 2 columns, and it is looks like 45 to 50 characters.
Okay. Interesting.
In one line. That's a very interesting point.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Would you let's see. Would you like to see Amon Hen change from A5 size to A4?
Okay, so those are British terms.
Yeah.
So A4 is slightly longer than 8.5 by 11.
Right. It's basically the Mallorn is the A4 size. Right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So but that will cost more.
It would.
And I think actually as a bulletin, I'm perfectly okay with it being.
Oh, but when you fold this, sorry, yeah. So you unfold the Mallorn.
So the European way of dealing with this is A4, and you
Fold it
half
over.
it,
Right.
and it becomes A5. You
Right.
half it again,
Yes.
postcard size, it's A6.
Okay.
Correct. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
the
fine with
number
the
of
smaller.
folds before the cut.
If it keeps costs down, and because I'm fine with the current presentation format.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things. I mean, if it's about style, I think we're pretty good with the way it is.
Yeah.
If it's about, well, Tolkien Society is experiencing some financial, hardships and needs to find some ways of cost cutting, then
Right.
I'm flexible with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely forward this video link to them so they can get our full feedback and anybody else who comments on the video. Do you think Amon Hen editors should hunt out articles and reviews or rely on what they are sent? I know they're always not getting enough. We as Smeals are not sending enough. I need to do a better
That's
job.
the problem with
We need to do a better job of sending it. But I think it would, if it doesn't cost anything, if you can get volunteers to help find more submissions, but that they are from Smeals and the Society,
Yes.
Bingo.
not big names or other, because then it's no different than the Mallorn or others. It needs to be specifically from the Smeals and Society members. So it doesn't hurt to keep, because you have to do that in any voluntary setting, you have to keep going, contribute. Volunteers have to be herded and prodded all the time.
Okay, so I'm gonna revise my
Yes.
earlier comment. I'm gonna say that Amon Hen is the Green Dragon,
Okay.
and Mallorn is the Council of Rivendell.
So, yes, if it doesn't really add too much burden, but more no in that we just need Smeals to contribute more to it, and we just need to all, including myself, do a better job of sending stuff in.
Yeah, I think we've got lots of great.
But otherwise, rely on what we're saying.
And that's the reason why questionnaires are so interesting, because when you say yes, but.
Yeah. And that's why we can give this video presentation, I hope is more helpful. It's qualitative instead of just quantitative. 11, do you think Amon Hen editors should correct submitted items for spelling and grammar?
Oh, I think so, because an editor has
That
to.
is the role of an editor.
Yeah, that's an editor's job.
And if people are insecure about, you changed my spelling, well.
Yeah. Now, the only thing I'd say again to that is if it means they have to pay, if they're currently not paying for it, but he says this is my job, but if it becomes a cost thing.
Oh.
So, again, my question is, if I don't want to see Amon Hen go because of cost cutting.
Right.
So I can live with it not having that, but we would prefer that you do have an editor that cleans those things up. So if it's, well, should we keep this editor? Yes, you should, as long as it means the magazine survives.
But there are technical tools to help with that.
But they can make a lot of mistakes too.
And
But it is streamlining.
and are we okay if it's not perfect?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am, yeah.
Okay, it's not perfect, but we like having an editor that can clean things up.
Sure. Sure.
So if it, again, but if it's the difference between the end of Amon Hen or not, we'll take having no editor if it keeps Amon Hen, but we'd rather have Amon Hen with an editor. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Sum it up?
it does.
Would you support a reduction in the number of Amon Hens in exchange for regular e-bulletins? Not really. That would just get drowned in my email.
That's a third publication.
That is another publication,
Yeah.
and again, it would lose some of the value.
Yeah.
They're only quarterly right now, right?
Yes, actually, I think Amon Hen
Which one?
I think Mallorn is quarterly. This is winter.
Is Amon Hen monthly?
It's bi-monthly, I thought. Like every other week, every other month?
I'm unclear.
If you wanted to go from every other month to quarterly,
I could live with quarterly.
Yeah.
I could live with quarterly. I like more frequency. But
No, this is actually monthly.
is it monthly?
Oh.
Then that's a good thing.
Yeah, if you want to
Especially
go
since
to
we do
every
monthly
other
meetings,
month, that's
We
fine.
should probably do a better job of checking it each month.
Yeah.
If, again, it's a survival thing, I'd rather have quarterly than nothing. Or going digital, I'd rather we don't go digital. I like monthly. Again, if it's the push to digital, I'd rather you did. We've all said that. Which items do you regularly read? Well, mostly, I mean, we read the poetry just now.
All brand, I usually read that.
Yeah, we look at the art, we read the poetry, and then we usually go through the articles and letters and reviews from the other SMEALs and such. It's generally what I skim through.
And I tend to look at I mean, it depends on what looks interesting from the table of contents.
Yeah, I look at the topics.
Yeah.
So it totally depends.
So don't lose the table content.
Yeah, that's critical. I look at all of them at different times depending on what the subject is. So hitting the title makes a big difference. Which items do you like reading?
We already kind of talked
Well, it says
about
which items do you regularly read? Which items do you like reading?
I think that's going to be different for each of us that are full-time members, so we should probably do that individually.
Yeah. Which items do you dislike reading? That will vary also. Which items would you like to see more of?
Well, I suppose it'd be things that would not go into Mallorn. I mean, I would assume if you wanted more essays and more scholarly things, that would be a Mallorn issue. So Amon Hen would be more informal things. I guess I would just like to be more connected with other SMEALs. I think it'd be great.
Poem of a personal experience of Tolkien, that resounds more than most of the others. So any of the personal experiences, because that's what it's supposed to be about, is our personal experiences of Tolkien in life.
Wouldn't it be great fun if there was a SMEAL on the west side or a SMEAL from Oregon or North Idaho?
We are the West Side.
See, it's so ironic.
The one that was in Seattle died out years ago. As far as any
We are the
personal.
frontier.
There's millions of people in Washington State. We're the only one that's allied with Tolkien Society.
Yeah, there's people in Seattle, but they don't have anything running.
I think they're all busy with other things, SCA or whatever.
Yeah.
SCA.
Society for Creative Anachronism.
Which I did for a lot of years.
They're a reenacting group.
Which items would you like to see less of? Do you reread Amon Hen? No, but I do reference it. Like all of these, I use them as references. I'll go back when I'm doing research or discussing a topic and pull out my whole shelves of stuff and go through and find, little key parts that I remember reading. Like, oh, I remember this quote. What do you think? Same thing?
Yeah.
You're new to that too. So do you think Amon Hen should include non-Tolkien fan fiction? I think that should be a separate publication.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah,
This is a bulletin.
Tolkien.
Yeah, this is a
It's
bulletin.
saying it's Tolkien related, but it's saying if it's not Tolkien's work, but it's fan fiction, where does that go?
Yeah.
And I'd say that's
separate.
People need to do that on their own.
Yeah. Do you think Amon Hen should include? They have it.
Hang on.
Twice.
What about references or maybe this is a
non-Tolkien
website thing
that
links towards
So the first one is
fan fiction?
The first one is non-Tolkien fan fiction. The second question is, do you think it should include Tolkien fan fiction?
Well,
Yes.
So one's non-Tolkien,
That's
the other's
odd.
Tolkien fan fiction.
I didn't know they got submissions for general fantasy or something.
I guess.
That's
and
bizarre.
I wouldn't be interested in either, really.
No, not really.
Yeah.
Well, they may get
Submissions.
for like mythopoetic stuff.
Yeah.
Without
I think that should be
necessarily-
separate.
Okay.
What do you like most about Amon Hen's design? What do you most dislike about Amon Hen's design? What would you change about Amon Hen? And what would you most want to stay the same? I think we've covered that in our elaborations of each question. We should get going on the reading and such, so, because we're already. So I apologize for that taking much time, but I think it's a value. I hope that will help the Amon Hen folk get some qualitative responses. Please do respond in the comments to the video, because I'm going to forward the link to the video to the Tolkien Society Amon Hen members so they can see your comments as well and provide feedback. And if there is, Brian, can you see if there's a link to this questionnaire online that people can submit at all?
There was a
But that might be society only.
there was a link I got the PDF of it.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's a place where people can contribute online as well. So there's that. So now should we go ahead and continue with our reading of Farmer Giles of Ham?
Yes, please.
All right.
I need some help in finding this. Well, because we
Many days passed away and no news came. No
Well,
news is bad news,
what
he
page?
said.
Yeah.
55. This is after the response from the king.
So he had actually confronted the dragon.
He met the dragon the first time.
So this
And he
is
captured
the
it, or,
miller, the miller and the blacksmith pretty much kind of going back and forth about
And then they brought the dragon as a prisoner to the town.
taking
Yes.
bets.
He bargained that if he was set free, he'd come back.
Right, so then he left.
They were waiting for that to.
Then there's the chainmail incident, and we're past that.
Chainmail incident.
They're creating all the
Yeah, but
chainmail.
that was way back,
The
right?
ringmail, that was way back. Okay.
So wasn't the king ordering him and all the knights to him?
That's the next spot.
Okay, we have got
I'm
the
lost.
If you want to start reading, Chris, I think we'll find it by
Sure.
what you're reading.
Well,
Maybe-
so
either,
How about a picture? Which picture?
it's
The,
so there's the response from the king
okay.
to Farmer Giles, and then
Okay, we did read this. We read this section, this very difficult to
Yes.
read section, because that was yours.
So it's
Hawke,
on the
remember?
next page.
Yeah.
That kind of really difficult script.
That was that was a while back.
So it's the next break after that.
Okay.
After the dog talking to the farmer's
Yeah.
wife.
So
Okay.
When Farmer Giles
no
got quit.
news is good. Bad
Farmer
news,
Giles got
he
quit.
Oh,
said,
right.
Burst into song.
Gotcha.
Okay, found it. All right.
Corey,
So-
are you good?
I think I am. I think I've got it now.
Let's let these guys, because they maybe haven't commented as much.
When Farmer Giles got to court, he was tired and dusty. But the king, so he's been summoned to court, which is from the village into the kingly court. He was tired and dusty, but the knights in polished mail and shining helmets on their head were all standing by their horses. The king's summons and the inclusion of the farmer had annoyed them, and so they insisted on obeying orders, literally setting off the moment that Giles arrived. The poor farmer had barely time to swallow a sop and a draught of wine before he was off on the road again. The mare was offended. What she thought of the king was luckily unexpressed, as it was highly disloyal. It was already late in the day, too late in the day to start a dragon hunt, thought Giles. But they did not go far. The knights were in no hurry. Once they had started, they rode along at their leisure, in a straggling line, knights and esquires, servants and ponies trussed with baggage, and Farmer Giles jogging behind his tired mare. Brave, brave Sir Robin.
Bravely turned to steel and fled.
Well, these knights aren't exactly looking forward to the dragon, so they're not exactly speeding along either.
And chickening out and running away. When evening came, they halted and pitched their tents. No provision had been made for Farmer Giles, and he had to borrow what he could. The mare was indignant, and she forswore her allegiance to the house of Augustus Bonifacius. The next day they rode on, and all the day after. On the third day they described the distance was dim, in the distance, the dim and inhospitable mountains. Before long, they were in the regions where the lordship of Augustus Bonifacius was not universally acknowledged. They rode then with more care and kept closer together. On the fourth day, they reached the wild hills and the borders of the dubious lands where legendary creatures were reputed to dwell. Suddenly, one of those riding ahead came upon ominous footprints in the sand by the stream. They called for the farmer.
"What are these, Master Echius?" they said. "Dragon marks," he said he. "Lead on," said they. So now they rode west with Farmer Giles at their head, and all the rings were jingling on his leather coat. That mattered little, for all the knights were laughing and talking, and a minstrel rode along with them, singing away. Bravely they ran away,
and then they ate the minstrel.
Yay! There was much rejoicing. But which was hard, and what was it?
Yeah.
Every now and again, they took up the refrain of the song and sang it all together, very loud and strong. It was encouraging, for the song was good. It had been made long before in days when battles were more common than tournaments, but it was unwise.
But it was.
But it was
unwise.
But it was unwise. Sorry.
That's okay.
Their coming was now known to all the creatures of that land, and the dragons were cocking their ears in all the caves of the west. There was no longer any chance of their catching old Chrysophylax napping. As Locke, excuse me,
I used to have a ringtone.
Okay. As Locke, or the Grey Mare herself, would have it, when at last they drew under the very shadow of the dark mountains, Farmer Giles' mare went lame. They had now begun to ride along steep and stony paths, climbing upward with toil and ever-growing disquiet. Bit by bit she dropped back in the line, stumbling and limping and looking so patient and sad that at last Farmer Giles was obliged to get off and walk. Soon they found themselves right at the back among the pack ponies, but no one took any notice of them. The knights were discussing points of precedence and etiquette, and their attention was distracted. Otherwise, they would have observed that dragon marks were now obvious and numerous. They had come indeed to the place where Christ often roamed or alighted after taking his daily exercise in the air. The lower hills and the slopes on either side of the path had a scorched and trampled look. There was little grass, and the twisted stumps of heather and gorse stood up black amid wide patches of ash and burned earth. The region had been a dragon's playground for many a year. A dark mountain wall loomed up before them.
Farmer Giles was concerned about his mare, but he was glad of the excuse for no longer being so conspicuous. It had not pleased him to be riding at the head of such a cavalcade in these dreary and dubious places. A little later, he was gladder still, and had reason to thank his fortune and his mare. For just about midday, it being the feast of the Candlemas on the 7th day of their riding, Tailbiter leaped out of its sheath and the dragon out of his cave. Without warning or formality, he swooped out to give battle. Down he came upon them with a rush and a roar. Far from his home, he had not shown himself overbold, but in spite of his ancient and imperial lineage, but now he was filled with a great wrath, for he was fighting at his own gate, as it were, and with all his treasure to defend. He came round a shoulder of the mountain like a ton of thunderbolts, with a noise like a gale and a gust of red lightning. The argument concerning precedence stopped short. All the horses shied to one side or the other, and some of the knights fell off. The ponies and the baggage and the servants turned and ran at once. They had no doubt as the order of precedence. Suddenly there came a rush of smoke that smothered them all, and right in the midst of it, the dragon crashed into the head of the line. Several of the knights were killed before they could even issue their formal challenge to battle, and several others were bowled over, horses and all. As for the remainder, their steeds took charge of them and turned round and fled, carrying their masters off, whether they wished it or no. Most of them wished it indeed. But the old gray mare did not budge. Maybe she was afraid of breaking her legs on a steep stony path. Maybe she felt too tired to run away. She knew in her bones that dragons on the wing are worse behind you than before you, and you need more speed than a racehorse for flight to be useful. Besides, she had seen this Chrysophylax before, and remembered chasing him over field and brook in her own country till he lay down tame in the village high street. Anyway, she stuck her legs out wide, and she snorted. Farmer Giles went as pale as his face could manage, but he stayed by her side, for there seemed nothing else to do. And so it was that the dragon, charging down the line, suddenly saw straight in front of him his old enemy with Tailbiter in his hand. It was the last thing he expected. He swerved aside like a great bat and collapsed on the hillside close to the road. Up came the gray mare, quite forgetting to walk lame. Farmer Giles, much encouraged, had scrambled hastily on her back. "Excuse me," said he, "but were you looking for me by any chance?" "No, indeed," said Chrysophylax. "Who would have thought of seeing you here? I was just flying about." "Then we met by good luck," said Giles, "and the pleasure is mine, for I was looking for you. What's more, I have a bone to pick with you, several bones in a manner of speaking." The dragon snorted. Farmer Giles put up his arm to ward off the hot gust, and with a flash, Tailbiter swept forward, dangerously near the dragon's nose. "Hey!" said he, and stopped snorting. He began to tremble and back away, and all the fire in him was chilled. "You have not, I hope, come to kill me, good master," he whined. Nay, said the farmer. "I said naught about killing." The gray mare sniffed. "Then what, may I ask, are you doing with all these knights?" said Chrysophylax. "Knights always kill dragons if we don't kill them first." "I'm doing nothing with them at all. They're not to me," said Giles. "And anyway, they're all dead now or gone. What about what you said last Epiphany?" "What about it?" said the dragon anxiously. Brian, you want me to keep going?
No, I'm good. "What about it?" said the dragon anxiously. "You're nigh on a month late," said Giles, "and payment is overdue. I have come to collect it. You should beg my pardon for all the bother I've been put to." "I do indeed," said he. "I wish you had not troubled to come." "It'll be every bit of your treasure this time, and no market trick," said Giles. "Or dead you'll be, and I shall hang your skin from our church steeple as a warning." "It's cruel hard," said the dragon. "A bargain's a bargain," said Giles. "Can't I keep just a ring or two, and a mite of gold in consideration of cash payment?" said he. "Not a brass button," said Giles, and so they kept on for a while, chaffering, arguing like folk at a fair. Yet the end of it was, as you might expect, for whatever else might be said, few had ever outlasted Farmer Giles at a bargaining. I'd like to see this guy at a garage sale.
Yeah, exactly. The fair, as he said.
Yeah. The dragon had to walk all the way back to his cave, for Giles stuck to his side with Tailbiter held mighty close. There was a narrow path that wound up and around the mountain, and there was barely room for the two of them. The mare came just behind, and she looked rather thoughtful. It was 5 miles if it was a step and stiff going, and Giles trudged along, puffing and blowing, but never taking his eye off the worm. At last, on the west side of the mountain, they came to the mouth of the cave. It was large and black and forbidding, and its brazen doors swung on great pillars of iron. Plainly, it had been a place of strength and pride in days long forgotten. For dragons do not build such works, nor delve such mines, but dwell rather, when they may, in the tombs and treasuries of mighty men and giants of old.
Margathond and Dingham and Longmouth.
The doors of this deep house were set wide, and in their shadow they halted. So far, Chrysophylax had had no chance to escape, but coming now to his own gate, he sprang forward and prepared to plunge in.
Good question.
I'm just trying to think. Why can't I say Beowulf seems to have something to say probably in this tale as well.
Well, Tolkien is the reason you know of Beowulf.
Oh, is it?
He basically made an argument for why it should be well known
And as a poetic work rather than just
as a literature.
Yeah, rather than just anthropological interest or something.
Well, it was one of the because I was an English major. It was one of the few that we actually had to read.
Right, and that is because of Tolkien.
Did you? I'm curious.
Forced it on you.
For better or worse.
Which version did you? I wonder which translation you read.
I don't know which translation.
So here's Tolkien's translation,
Which just came out last year.
Here's Seamus Heaney's, which was famous in last couple of decades, and plenty of others. But in this one, because this is always great, I have marked this. However, when it comes to considering Beowulf as a work of literature, there is one publication that stands out. And this is from the translator of this, is Seamus Heaney.
Right.
The Oxford scholar and teacher J.R.R. Tolkien published an epic-making paper entitled Beowulf, the Monsters, and the Critics, which took for granted the poem's integrity and distinction as a work of art, and proceeded to show in what this integrity and distinction inhered. And he did this, he was constantly doing it.
And
Tolkien,
realize that.
right, no, most people did. I did before reading this comment in here. Tolkien's brilliant literary treatment changed the way the poem was valued and initiated a new era and new terms of appreciation. Here's the key thing. It is impossible to attain a full understanding and estimate of Beowulf without recourse to this immense body of commentary and elucidation from Tolkien.
Oh, wow. See,
that's in the foreword.
I knew he was involved in the OED.
Yes.
But I did not realize that he was involved in Beowulf.
Yep. And so there's a recently they published Tolkien's translation of Beowulf itself.
With
Maybe Corey could have a look at the book.
Yes. And then with what were you saying?
It contains the
Monsters and Critics
commentary and Monsters and Critics and other things.
Excellent. And then here is the Monsters and the Critics essays of Tolkien, and that's included with it as well. This was published a lot earlier.
I have not yet got to this. But Beowulf is on the Hoax reading list, so I'm thinking of having them swap translation.
Yeah, it is.
Somebody, I think Richard's at the door. Enter.
Welcome.
Oh, it's great.
I think he is coming now. I just saw it coming.
I'm going to go yet. So
Where?
we're going to go to the chat briefly.
Okay. All right. Let me go. Okay, so yeah.
So where were we?
So,
Chris, were you
did he write this before or after
The translation?
this? Did he write the Monsters and the Critics?
Oh yes.
That was
Before or after
Farmer Giles of Ham.
Farmer Giles?
Well, the letters. Correct me if I'm wrong,
Question.
but the reason why we started reading from Giles
Because
of
we hit
Ham
it
is
in the
because
letters.
he was referring to it to his publisher Allen and Unwin
Right.
in 1946 or 47.
Right.
So he had the story pretty much done by then, but wasn't
And that is
published
the
until the
question which came
1960s.
first, as far as his writing.
So the Monsters and the Critics, you mean a translation of a Beowulf or the
Monsters. He's asking about Monsters and Critics versus Farmer Giles of Ham.
So Monsters and Critics was, I thought, pre-World War II, but or was it after?
Memorial lecture to the British
Come
Academy,
in.
read on 25th
My governor, Richard,
November
welcome.
1936.
Right,
So
that's
this-
the Monsters and Critics 36.
This predates
Your
potentially.
Publication. But when did he write Farmer Giles of Ham?
Yeah.
Because I think it was something he'd had sitting for a while that then he needed to polish.
You can jewel it.
Yeah, I don't know.
So did we get a date?
Or
Farmer Giles of Ham, 1949 is when it was published.
Okay. That
So the
fits.
question is, when did he start niggling at it? When did he first write?
Potentially,
But at least
in
publication-wise.
and amongst this, he could have been.
Yeah.
Well, look how long it took him to write the Silmarillion. I mean,
So,
Yeah. So when was Monsters and Critics first delivered? As
36.
36.
And Farmer Giles is 49.
Yeah. Okay.
So, all right.
So that's that. I
You
just
should read next.
think it's interesting. I wonder if that just was such an impact on him.
Right. It was. It was epic for him. It is an epic. And the fact that you're an English major,
Yeah.
and yet none of your teachers knew that when they were
Well, they
required,
probably knew.
or
but
shared with
they
their students.
Shared that.
they may not have known.
Some of them.
I run into a lot of
Yeah.
English teachers who did not know Tolkien's influence on
Yeah.
Beowulf.
But-
That's why I keep bringing it
The
up.
funny thing about this is, as much as I obviously admire Tolkien and his invaluable contribution to bringing it to the public eye, do we know who brought Chaucer to the public eye? Do we know?
That's
I
true.
mean, there's lots and lots of
True.
people who have played a role that, in some ways, their role was to highlight the work that was before them.
But he made a point of it. If you actually read the foreword, he made a very big point of it. You can't truly appreciate it. However, I think anybody. Now, when did you get your degree? Was it?
Oh, I didn't get a degree.
Oh, you just.
I was
Okay.
for a short period of time. But
Okay, sorry to jump. Yeah, this was in 2000. Now, prior to 2000, I don't think any Beowulf translation said that about Tolkien. So I could see why that would slip through.
Well, and it
But
should be
any
noted.
teacher now, if they use the Seamus Haney translation, they would.
Well, and we need to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
Chris,
So
we're on the bottom of page
continue.
135, or
Whatever page.
Oh, he's got it.
Here, let me
Yeah.
swap books.
that was perfectly timed, wasn't it?
And we are.
Oh,
Of course not.
here, plunge
Yes.
in. Farmer Giles,
Yes.
hit him.
Where?
Farmer Giles hits him.
Well,
No real dragons were harmed in the making of this book.
oh, I see where we're at. Okay.
Yes.
With the flat of the sword.
Jolly good show.
Right here.
Oh, I'm supposed to be reading.
Yes.
No, he doesn't have to. He's in
You
his
don't
half
have
sleep.
to. I'm still half asleep. Is my
Oh,
excuse.
okay. All right, fine. I will read. Farmer Giles hit him with the flat of the sword. Whoa, said he. Before you go in, I've something to say to you. If you ain't outside in a quick time with something worth bringing, I shall come in after you and cut off your tail. To begin with,
Them's fighting words.
the mare sniffed. She could not imagine Farmer Giles going down alone into a dragon's den for any money on earth. But Chrysophylax was quite prepared to believe it, and with Tailbiter looking so bright and sharp and all. And maybe he was right. And the mare, for all her wisdom, had not yet understood the change in her master. Farmer Giles was backing his luck, and after 2 encounters was beginning to fancy that no dragon could stand up to him. Anyway, out came Chrysophylax again in a mighty quick time with 20 troy pounds of gold and silver and a chest of rings and necklaces and other pretty stuff. There, he said he. Where? Said Giles. That's not half enough. If that's what you mean, not half what you got, I'll be bound. Of course not, said the dragon, rather perturbed to find the farmer's wits seemed to have become brighter since the day in the village. Of course not, but I can bring it all out. I can't bring it all out at once. Well, nor at twice, I'll wager, said Giles.
20 troy
If
pounds.
you go again and out again double quick, or I'll give you a taste of Tailbiter. No, said the dragon, and he popped again and out again double quick. There, said he, putting down an enormous load of gold and 2 chests of diamonds. Now,
Try again, said the farmer, and try harder. It's hard. It's cruel hard. Kind of like my daughter.
Precious.
Kind of like my daughter cleaning her room. Said the dragon. As he went back in again. But by this time, the gray mare was getting a little bit anxious on her own account. Who is going to carry all this heavy stuff? Oh, I wonder, thought she. And she gave such a long, sad look at all the bags and boxes that the farmer guessed her mind. Never you worry, lass, said he. We'll make the old worm do the carting. Mercy on us, said the dragon. Overheard these words as he best came out of the cave for the third time with the biggest load of all, and a mort of rich jewels like green and red fire. Mercy on us, if I can carry all this, it will be near the death of me, and a bag more I never could manage, not if you killed me with it. Then, there's more still, is there?
Oops. It's like the IRS. Don't tell him you've got more.
Oh, the fact that the farmer has gotten so uppity about he thinks that he's going to be able to push this dragon to go in there again.
That was not a real comment about the IRS.
Yes, it was.
Yes, that should not be construed as an accurate comment.
Yeah, it is opinion, not
What?
the views expressed are not necessarily those of the Tolkien Society or its.
I was making a snide remark about the IRS and
Yes.
realized that my spider sense wasn't working.
Is there audio pickup? Red flag.
Yes.
So
Knock.
name, address, phone.
If you find somebody in a car following you, you should be okay.
Sorry, I derailed your comment.
Yes, said the dragon, enough to keep me respectable. He spoke near the truth, for a rare wonder, as wisely as it turned out. If you will leave me with the remains, he said very wily, I'll be your friend forever, and I will carry all this treasure back to your honor's own house, and not to the king's. I will help you keep it, what is more. Then the farmer took out a toothpick with his left hand, and he thought very hard for a minute. Then, done with you, said he, shouting, showing a laudable discretion. A knight would have stood out for the whole hoard and got a curse laid upon it.
Beowulf.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as likely as not, if Giles had driven the worm to despair, he would have turned and fought to the end, tail biter or no tail biter. In which case Giles, if not slain himself, would have been obliged to slaughter his transport and leave the best part of his gains in the mountains.
Very practical.
Well, that was the end of it. The farmer stuffed his pockets with jewels, just in case anything went wrong, and then
He's like one of my D&D groups.
and he gave the gray mare a small load to carry, but the rest he bound on the back of Chrysophylax in boxes and bags till he looked like a royal, what is that?
Pantechnicon.
Oh,
Pantechnicon.
yeah. Define that again. What is that?
No.
It's like a carnival or something, or?
There was no chance of his flying, for his load was too great, and Giles had tied down his wings.
A large van for transporting furniture. Sounds like perambulators or baby coach. I mean, like, it doesn't sound anything like.
Pantechnicon.
Also, so a furniture van, and it's a British term.
Good OED experience.
Yeah, it's a very British term.
Mighty handy this rope had turned out to be in the end, he thought, and he remembered the parson with gratitude.
It was originally a furniture removal van drawn by horses and used by the British company The Pantechnicon for delivering and collecting furniture which its customers wished to store. So,
The original.
So it's not. I was wondering if that sounded like that sounded anachronistic, but then it said horse drawn. Okay.
Yeah, my first image was a
Big
gasoline.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So now off the dragon trotted, puffing and blowing.
Well, his wings are tied.
With the mare at his tail and the farmer holding out Cod of Mordax, very bright and threatening. He dared try no tricks.
There's a good Wikipedia entry.
Just making sure. I'm sorry, I had to do
We're at the break of the scene.
right here. Mighty handy this rope turned out.
Just after that.
No tricks.
Oh,
We
okay.
have a break.
Okay, no trick.
Oh.
In spite of their burdens, the mare and the dragon made better speed going back than the cavalcade had made coming. For Farmer Giles was in a hurry, not the least reason being that he had a little food in his bag. Also, he had no trust in Chrysophylax after his breaking of oath so solemn and binding. He wondered much how to get through a night without death or great loss. But before the night fell, he ran again into luck, for they overtook a half dozen of the servants and ponies that had departed in haste and were now wandering at a loss in the wild hills. They scattered in fear and amazement, but Giles shouted after them. "Hey, lads," said he, "come back. I have a job for you, and good wages while this packet lasts." So they entered his service, being glad of a guide, and thinking that their wages might indeed come more regular now than had been usual. And they rode on 7 men, 6 ponies, 1 mare, and a dragon. And Giles began to feel like a lord and stuck out his chest. Then they halted as seldom as they could. At night, Farmer Giles roped the dragon to 4 pickets, 1 to each leg, with 3 men to watch him in turn. Did I skip a page?
Nope.
Okay. But the gray mare kept half an eye open in case the men should try any tricks on their own account. After 3 days, they were back over the borders of their own country, and their arrival caused such a wonder and uproar as had seldom been seen between the 2 seas before. In the first village they stopped at, food and drink was showered on them free, and half the lads wanted to join in the procession. Giles chose out a dozen likely young fellows. He promised them good wages and bought them such mounts as he could get. He was beginning to have ideas. After resting a day, he rode on again with his new escort at his heels. They sang songs in his honor, rough and ready, but they sounded good in his ears. Some folks cheered and others laughed. It was a sight both merry and wonderful. Soon Farmer Giles took a bend southward and steered towards his own home, and never went near the court of the king nor sent any message. But the news of the return of Master Aegidius spread like fire from the west, and there was great astonishment and confusion, for he came hard on the heels of a royal proclamation bidding all the towns and villages to go in the morning for the fall of the brave knights in the pass of the mountains. Wherever Giles went, the morning was cast aside, and bells were set ringing, and people thronged by the wayside, shouting and waving their caps and their scarves. But they booed the poor dragon till he began to bitterly regret the bargain he had made. It was most humiliating for one of the ancient and imperial lineage. When they got back to Ham, all the dogs barked at him scornfully, all except Garm. He had eyes, ears, and nose only for his master. Indeed, he went quite off his head and turned somersaults all along the street. Ham, of course, gave the farmer a wonderful welcome, but probably nothing pleased him more than finding that the miller at a loss for a sneer and the blacksmith quite out of countenance. "This is not the end of the affair. Mark my words," said he. But he could not think of anything worse to say and hung his head gloomily. Farmer Giles, with his 6 men and his dozen likely lads, and the dragon and all, went up the hill, and there they stayed quiet for a while. Only the parson was invited to the house. You want me to keep reading?
The parson who provided the rope.
Yeah.
It's always interesting how he follows the example. Chesterton was big on, if you ever read his his main character in one of his stories was a parson, or a cleric or whatever, and I just think it's funny that the cleric gets the pat on the back or the good job here.
Was it? Did you say that he gave him the rope?
Yeah.
He said, you'll need a rope.
Yeah, that was
wise. Sam Gamgee also said,
if I had a bit of rope.
After leaving River.
Yes.
That's right.
Well,
which later he got one in the lower.
Wasn't the parson the one that looked up the symbols on the sword too?
Yeah.
So the parson always seems to turn out okay in these Catholic-related stories.
This parson was okay. The parson of the neighboring village, not so much.
Yeah.
He was rather lean and stringy. Hawke's turn.
The news soon reached the capital, and forgetting the official mourning and their business as well, people gathered in the streets. There was much shouting and noise. The king was in his great house, biting his nails and tugging his beard. Between grief and rage and financial anxiety, his mood was so grim that no one dared to speak to him. But at last the noise of the town came to his ears. It did not sound like mourning or weeping. "What is all the noise about?" he demanded. "Tell the people to go indoors and mourn decently. It sounds more like goose fair." The dragon has come back, Lord," they answered. "What?" said the king. "Summon our knights, or what is left of them." "There's no need, Lord," they answered. "With Master Aegidius behind him, the dragon is tame as tame, or so we are informed. The news has not long come in, and reports are conflicting." "Bless our soul," said the king, looking greatly relieved. "And to think that we ordered a dirge to be sung for the fellow the day after tomorrow. Cancel it! Is there any sign of our treasure?" "Reports say that there is a veritable mountain of it, Lord," said the answer. "When will it arrive?" said the king eagerly. "A good man, this Aegidius. Send him in to us as soon as he comes." There was some hesitation in replying to this. At last, someone took courage and said, "Your pardon, Lord, but we hear that the farmer has turned aside towards his own home. But doubtless he will hasten here in suitable raiment at the earliest opportunity." "Doubtless," said the king, "but confound his raiment. He had no business to go home without reporting. We are much displeased." The earliest opportunity presented itself and passed, and so did many later ones. In fact, Farmer Giles had been back for a good week or more, and still no word or news of him came to the court. On the 10th day, the king's rage exploded. "Send for the fellow," he said, and they were sent. It was a day's hard riding to Ham each way. He will not come, Lord," said a trembling messenger 2 days later. "Lightning of heaven," said the king, "command him to come on Tuesday next, or he shall be cast into prison for life." Your pardon, Lord, but he still will not come," said a truly miserable messenger returning alone on the Tuesday. 10,000 thunders, said the king. "Take this fool to prison instead. Now send some men to fetch the churl in chains," he bellowed to those that stood by. How many men?" they faltered. There's a dragon and Tilbiter and broomstairs and fiddlesticks," said the king. Then he ordered his white horse and summoned his knights, or what was left of them, and a company of men-at-arms, and he rode off in fiery anger. All the people ran out of their houses in surprise. But Farmer Giles had now become more than the hero of the countryside. He was the darling of the land. And the folk did not cheer the knights and men-at-arms as they went by, though they still took off their hats to the king. In some villages, the people shut their doors, and not a face could be seen. Then the king changed from hot wrath to cold anger. He had a grim look at it as he rode up at last to the river beyond which lay Ham and the house of the farmer. He had a mind to burn the place down. But there was Farmer Giles on the bridge, sitting on the gray mare with Tailbiter in his hand. No one else was to be seen except Garm, who was lying in the road. "Good morning, Lord," said Giles, as cheerful as day, not waiting to be spoken to. The king eyed him coldly. "Your manners are unfit for our presence," said he. "But that does not excuse you from coming when sent for." "I had not thought of it, Lord, and that's a fact," said Giles. "I had matters of my own to mind, and had wasted time enough on your errands." "10,000 thunders!" cried the king in a hot rage again. "To the devil with you and your insolence! No reward will you get after this, and you will be lucky if you escape hanging. And hanged you shall be, unless you beg our pardon here and now and give us back our sword." "Eh?" said Giles. "I've got my reward, I reckon. Finding's keeping, and keeping's having, we say here. And I reckon Tailbiter is better with me than with your folk. But what are all these knights and men for by any chance?" he asked. "If you come on a visit, you'd be welcome with fewer. If you want to take me away, you'll need a lot more."
Oh, shots fired.
The king choked, and the knights went very red and looked down their noses. Some of the men-at-arms grinned, since the king's back was turned to them. "Give me my sword!" shouted the king, finding his voice but forgetting his plural. "Give us your crown," said Giles, a staggering remark, such as had never before been heard in all the days of the Middle Kingdom. "Lightning of heaven, seize him and bind him!" cried the king, justly enraged beyond bearing. "What do you hang back for? Seize him or slay him!" The men-at-arms strode forward. "Help, help, help!" cried Garm.
Just at that moment, the dragon got up from under the bridge. He had lain there concealed under the far bank deep in the river. Now he let off a terrible steam, for he had drunk many gallons of water. At once there was a thick fog and only the red eyes of the dragon to be seen in it.
So actually, we have 5 minutes left. Should we save this for next month to finish off?
There's not much left.
Yeah, but it'll still take 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
What do you think? Leave it at the cliffhanger?
Yes.
Da, da, da.
I found an interesting fact. So I do actually have genealogy as one of my hobbies.
Yes.
I'm not, devoted to it, but it's one of my hobbies. Anyway, so there was a guy named Giles in my family tree, and I just realized that in actual fact there was a Latin record in the 1500s of his birth, and I was curious because I was like, oh, because Aegidius is what Tolkien uses to translate Giles, because that Master Aegidius is Latin,
Right.
for Giles.
Right.
So and it's Tricissima de January Aegidius Filius Stephanae Hopkins. So it's saying on the 13th day of January, Aegidius, or Giles, son of Stephen Hopkins, was born. So it's kind of interesting because in Latin, some of the names you think, wow, where did they get that from? Or in Spanish, for example, which is of course descended from Latin, James is Diego. There's like San Diego means St. James. It's just interesting how these names,
Yeah.
where did we?
Well, and etymology is totally appropriate for a Tolkien Society.
This is true.
What I want to know is this lightning of heaven or these 7 thunders or whatever that the king's making reference to.
He's cussing, basically.
Well,
It's creatively cussing. I think is a phrase.
well, I think later on, I think there's
So in the OneRing.net chat room, Darth Maul 208 asks, "Did any of you see Beowulf return to the Shieldlands?" I've not even heard of that. Is that a movie?
I don't know.
Presumably.
So
Maybe he will come back and say.
Beowulf return to the Shieldlands. There have been so many Beowulf movies and stuff. Oh, it's a miniseries. 2000. Well, I don't think it's out yet. Or maybe it just started. It's 2016. It says set in Scandinavia. Beowulf, the hero of the Geats. So it's not out yet. Maybe it's in Europe or something. It's not here yet.
Obviously,
because IMDb has unknown. Okay, let's see, Wikipedia.
So is it based
British?
on?
It's a British epic, so it's not here in the U.S.
The original story does have two sections, obviously, where he kills he kills Grendel, and then later on he fights the dragon. That's where Beowulf dies.
And then
is
there's
this
a lot
where
of
thinking about like the movie would be kind of part 2 of Beowulf's saga.
Yeah, well, this says it's a British so it's a British epic fantasy drama television series from ITV of 13 episodes created by James Dormer, Tim Haynes, and Katie Newman. Dormer wrote the series based on the poem Beowulf, and executive produced along with Haynes and Newman, while Stephen Smallwood produced the series. The series began airing in the United Kingdom on January 3rd, so it just started. And will air in the U.S. January 23rd.
Ooh.
It's a reimagining of themes and characters from the Old English poem Beowulf, but with new characters and storylines added. And then this is all Wikipedia.
A nice way of saying that we're going to attempt to mess with this and see if you still like it.
I thought it was more that the corporation was going to try and cash in.
It's called Beyond the Shieldlands?
Yes.
Okay.
The movie, as I recall, the CGI one ended with Beowulf's death.
Yeah.
But I also heard a lot of negative reviews. Does anybody else have any opinion?
I have the CGI version. I also have the guy from Highlander version, which is kind of a futurist. He's kind of a road warrior version. There have been so many.
Christopher Lambert,
yeah. He did a version in the 90s, which was rock music. And it was more of a road warrior style. There have been so many.
Highlander style.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there was 13th Warrior, which doesn't say Beowulf, but it is basically strongly related to Beowulf. It was a retelling in another way, and that had Omar Sharif and a bunch of Northern European. Anyway, it was different, interesting.
I guess Outlander can sort of fit into that category.
Yeah, there's a lot of Beowulf-inspired movies, as well as every decade, or sometimes twice in a decade. It's kind of like the Robin Hoods and stuff. They just keep getting made, remade.
You're here talking.
Public domain.
But I would say that we are. I think this is. Yeah, I think maybe we're more familiar with Robin Hood's the storylines and so forth. To compare recent movies or whatever that comes out with that. I'm not sure with Beowulf how where generally people are with the storyline, so that they could say, oh well, I think that movie was a pretty interesting adaptation or whatever, because a lot of people I think would just tend to take it on face value, like, oh, that's the story of Beowulf. So it's always good to get a good copy and read, and then go and enjoy movies.
Right. Darth Maul replies, so I said that we're discussing it right now, and thanks for letting us know. And he says, it's well made, only the first episode is aired here so far, but it's enjoyable. So I said, super, we'll check it out.
And that's on the IRC channel?
That's the OneRing.net IRC. Remember, I made them out with 8 different IRC servers.
I think it's called multitasking, right?
Yep.
I just want to know which one to know how.
I typically have 20 or 30 windows open just on this laptop, not counting the other laptops running.
So it's 3 o'clock.
It is. It's time for us to wrap up.
And I need to use it.
Yes. So, but we covered some good chunk of material.
We're almost done with the book.
Yeah, and we have just enough to make it worth another, session next month. It'll probably take about 15-20 minutes to finish. And we'll probably resume letters and get back on track with that. Did you really quickly want to show your art book?
It can wait till next month.
Okay, bring next month then. Wonderful. So, and I think we'll start incorporating Michael Martinez's essays as well. I'll see if I can correlate them to what's in letters, because usually letters is our main guiding principle as we're slowly progressing through that. So what letters would we do next?
I'm gonna have to look back at the old notes.
Okay.
I'm guessing it was
Like 110 or
October
something.
when we last.
Right.
So we'll have that. We'll have that on the notes, and the
Right.
notes will get published really soon.
Okay.
I'm gonna get those off to you.
And that's at tolkienscholars.org, and there's a big link there that says monthly meeting notes. So we always publish those before each meeting, and so that's what we'll do is we'll finish up, we'll do our usual minutes, and then we'll finish the reading, and then we'll do whatever else after that. So we make sure we do the reading first. Does that sound good? And my apologies that we did so many things, but we covered great topics. So make sure you go check out the Amon Hen and let the Tolkien Society know your thoughts on that. Hopefully there's a questionnaire online there somewhere. And any other last minute comments anybody wants to make before we wrap up? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Thank you, everybody online. And for those who couldn't make it, hope you enjoyed the video recording after the fact. Please do go ahead and comment in the YouTube comments. And I try to monitor that. Or better yet, email me, tolkienscholars@gmail.com. And we'll definitely make replies. And if you want us, we can read your emails and comments at the next broadcast. We meet every second Saturday, generally, of the month from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific time. Website's tolkienscholars.org. We're also on Google Plus and Twitter under Tolkien Scholars. Stopped using Facebook. It's been too much of a pain, and so don't bother with Facebook for us. But Tolkien, we have our own website, we have a chat server, we have email, and we have Twitter and Google Plus. So what more could you ask for? We welcome your comments. So thank you everybody for coming, and wherever you may be well. Namaste.
Yeah.